A pretty jam-packed Tuesday around Major League Baseball on the diamond. Into the second week of this MLB season, pretty much every team has now played 10 games. Of course, there's some delays, some postponements early on with the bad weather, but today in the Northeast, it's going to feel like spring and maybe even an early peak at summer. So we start at Fenway Park, where it's going to be gorgeous today for some day baseball between the Red Sox and the Orioles, an AL East divisional showdown. Corbin Burnes on the bump for Baltimore, their new ace, who was sensational in his debut for the O's on opening day. Baltimore 5-4 to start this year, a winning record. They've dropped 2 in a row, however. The Red Sox, who were expected to be at the cellar of the American League East, actually the second best mark at this moment, 7-3. But it's the Baltimore Orioles, a road favorite, minus 138 on that money line with Burnes on the bump.
Yeah, you're taking a look at Burnes here being the premier pitcher in this game. We love the way he started off the season here for the Orioles, but also to that similar effect. You're going to get some decent temperatures there in Boston today, close to 60 degrees. However, right field conditions, the wind is blowing in at about 10 miles per hour, so maybe keeping it in the ballpark a little bit there. But let's focus here on what really makes sense, and that's that Baltimore Orioles lineup going against Brayan Bello today. If you look at last year, 343 batters that Bello faced from the left-hand side, they really got the best of them, guys. 206 ISO power number, weighted on base percentage 380, and also combined, if we include right-handed batters and left-handed batters, a 190 ISO, which is slightly elevated, and a 340 weighted on base percentage, also slightly elevated. So let's fast forward here to 2024. Against right-handed batters, he has been terrible here, a 429 ISO power number and a weighted on base percentage of 381. That's only 21 batters, but it's a decent sample size enough. Left-handed batters who we really struggled with last year, actually not struggling so much this year at a 158 ISO and a weighted on base percentage of 337. But let's take a look at that Baltimore lineup, which has been deadly against right-handed pitching so far this season. Gunnar Henderson, if we're just looking at ISO power numbers here, which tells you, hey, if that guy can get up to the plate, crush a double, crush a triple, or a home run into the seats, that's the easiest way to score runs. And again, about 170 is what you want to look for at the Major League Baseball level as an ISO power number. Anything above that, you're above the Major League Baseball average. Gunnar Henderson, 421. Santander, 227. Mountcastle, 333. O'Hearn, 353. Mullins, 368. Westberg, 278. And Cowser, 222. So 7 out of the 9 batters way up on ISO power numbers. You got a better pitcher and a better lineup here. Baltimore's probably the play today.
8.5 is that total today in Fenway Park between the Red Sox and the Orioles. When you look at Corbin Burnes in his first 2 starts for the Baltimore Orioles, both at Camden to start off his time. In his most recent start against the Royals, 5 2/3, did give up 9 hits and 2 earned runs, only 3 Ks. But still, Baltimore won that game 4-3. In his opening game in Baltimore for the O's, he went 6 innings of work, gave up 1 hit. It just happened to be a home run to Mike Trout, but 11 Ks in that moment as well. The Orioles have won both games that Corbin Burnes has started on the bump. They're the road moneyline favorite today in Boston against the Red Sox. That is one of 2 day baseball games. Also that intriguing start to this matchup between the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Detroit Tigers. Casey Mize on the bump for the Tigers, but with Martin Perez on the bump for the Buccos, they're a slight home favorite, minus 120. So 2 day baseball games, 13 starting in the evening hours, a jam-packed slate, a full slate on this Tuesday in Major League Baseball. All 30 clubs in action. And the hottest team at the moment, the Cleveland Guardians. They've won 5 straight games, and they're greater than a $2 favorite at home today against the Chicago White Sox. Over-under is 9. So with how great the Guardians have been to start this year, despite the injury news to Shane Bieber, they're 8-2. The White Sox have been polar opposite. They've lost 5. They're 1-9.
Yeah, not looking good here today either for the Chicago White Sox. Soroka due up on the mound, the right-handed pitcher for them last year. Only 191 batters that he did face. Take a look at this, though. ISO power number combined between lefties and righties last year, 269. That's terrible. Weighted on base percentage, 388. Everybody was participating here, Ben, and knocking him around. Now, let's take a look at what he's been doing this season. Did he improve on that? Did he not improve? Only 46 batters that he's faced, but it's been terrible. Right-handed batters, a 280 ISO power number. Left-handed batters, a 222. If we look at the weighted on base percentages here as well, 381 to lefties, 397 to right-handed batters. You take a look at the lineup, who has done some very good things here for Cleveland so far in the early season. The top part of that lineup is where you want to focus on. First 4 batters there, 185 for Quan, ISO power number going up against right-handed pitching in 2024. You take a look at Ramirez at 179 and Naylor 182. It's not a potent, powerful lineup, but you're also basing it off of Major League Baseball hitters going up against a pitcher that has really struggled last year, Ben, and also this season as well. But for Chicago, let's dip into it here. Logan Allen's a left-handed pitcher on the mound. Is he fantastic? Not necessarily, but this this year, dominated against lefties, but again, only 4 to 5 at-bats that he's faced them against. Right-handed batters, 500 ISO power number, and a weighted on-base percentage of .501, which basically means everybody getting up is knocking a double off of the wall, if not more, in a home run. Now, here's the problem. 21 batters faced, not a big sample size. But if we don't have a big sample size from this pitcher to start the season, even less of a sample size as we take a look at a left-handed pitcher going up against the White Sox here and their offense. Let's go over ISO power numbers here and have fun, Ben. You ready for this one? Against lefties, this tells you how bad Chicago's been. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and 0.
Yeah.
Good luck getting extra base hits today. I know it's early. Just doesn't factor in well for the White Sox, man.
Listen, Chicago has played 10 games. They have scored a total of 15 runs. Brutal. They were shut out yesterday in Cleveland in the home opener in the land for the Guardians. Jose Ramirez, a 2-run bomb in the 5th that really patted the lead for Cleveland. That was the 4th time the Southsiders have been shut out this year. It is going to be bad for the White Sox all year long. The only redeeming factor, 1-9, 10 games. They are 5-5 on the run line. Of course, not covering the run line yesterday, losing by 4. Two teams we expect to be in contention for American League wildcard spots face off tonight in Toronto. It's the Blue Jays and the Mariners. As I look for this number, the Toronto Blue Jays, a slight home favorite at -110. Chris Bassett on the bump for the Jays. On the other side, it's George Kirby for Seattle. Very close distinction in those moneyline prices, DRS. What gives today up north?
Yeah, maybe taking a look at George Kirby. Last year had a very solid season here, Ben. ISO power number combined between lefties and righty batters of 143 and a weighted on base percentage 284. Again, the weighted on base percentage is usually around like at 320 to 325 range. That's average, meaning if you're a pitcher, anything above that, not really good territory. Anything below that, very good. And he was at a 284. Let's flip it over to this year. Even better, 24 batters that he's faced this season. How about the ISO power number? 0. How about the weighted on base percentage? 132. And he's a right-handed pitcher, so typically you might say, well, the lefties might be getting over early, Ben, on some of these lineups. Not the case here. Even when you look at Toronto, struggling a little bit at the plate. This season, a lot of these guys have 25 to 30 at-bats, so a decent sample size. Springer, Vladimir Guerrero, and Kevin Biggio all have elevated ISO power numbers. The remaining 6 batters, which is Bo Bichette, Justin Turner, Alejandro Kirk, Dalton Varsho, Kiner Falefa, and Kiermaier, all really bad against right-handed pitching. So without going into even the opposite side, I got the better pitcher on the mound today, and it looks like I have the better lineup technically on the field as well. Maybe a little M's action for me.
Nobody for the Jays this year in that starting lineup yesterday, and they did win 5-2 over Seattle in the openers, batting above 300 or better right now. Justin Turner, best batting average at .290. Luis Castillo on the bump yesterday. It was an aces affair between Jose Barrios for Toronto and Luis Castillo on the other side for Seattle. Castillo is struggling this year, and there was a lot of optimism for the Mariners based on this starting staff. Logan Gilbert, Luis Castillo, George Kirby, who is on the mound today. Castillo is 0-3 this year. Got rocked yesterday. 5 innings, 9 hits, 4 earned runs. He is a 6.89 ERA to begin this season for Seattle. Again, 0-3 for the Mariners. He has made 3 starts. He has lost every one. The Mets win a thriller yesterday on the road in the ATL, booked as a hefty underdog. Charlie Morton was on the bump for the Braves. They were greater than a $2 price on the money line. Atlanta's still a hefty favorite today, -188 against New York, +160 on the other side for the Amazons. Total at 9.5. Yesterday's game well over. More offense today in Atlanta?
Probably some offense here. Let's take a look at the weather conditions. 65 degrees here, so not that temperatures that we're looking at down there in the Big A. And also winds blowing in from right field at 5 miles per hour. That's not really going to matter all that much. They got some pretty good bats on both sides here, particularly as we fire up and take a look at the Atlanta Braves. If we're looking here at the numbers, Adrian Hauser on the mound, decent pitcher last year, 500 batters he's faced, an ISO power number of 129 combined, which is really good, which means he's keeping the ball in the park. And if you limit it to singles, you're not really going to get damage because of Major League Baseball, as we know. The innings aren't built on 3 singles. They're built on a single, double, and maybe a home run to drive in some of those runs. But let's take a look at the Atlanta Braves lineup. Here's why you love them. And as an RBI guy, I love to back them. Yesterday, Ben, just dabbling around, took 4 players on this baseball team just to get a base hit for some action. Nailed it yesterday because it seems like every single player in this lineup can hit. Just look at the weighted on-base percentages here against right-handed pitching on this early season. Most of these guys are around 20 at-bats. 395, 409, 378, 466, 556, 47, 424, 597. It's almost like a video game right now that you're playing. hard to go against the Atlanta Braves here because the one thing we do know, if they're going to struggle on the mound, they're going to hit their way out of these struggles. They're really good at the plate.
Yeah, absolutely. So 8-7 was the win yesterday for New York. Atlanta scored 2 runs in the 8th and the 9th to really make things a little bit interesting in that matchup. Excuse me, not even just 2 runs. 2 runs. 8-5. That was the score. I was correct. Anyway, Brandon Nimmo, big day yesterday. 2 home runs for New York, his first 2 long balls of the year. Again, Atlanta a hefty favorite today, -188 on that money line. The Dodgers continue their Midwest trip. They dropped the weekend series in Wrigley against the Cubs, but they win the opener yesterday in Minneapolis. The Dodgers are going to be booked as a favorite in pretty much every game, and we see that once again. Tyler Glass now on the mound for L.A., -188 the price on the money line.
Yeah, take a look. It's interesting because the Dodgers, again, you're going to see these price points quite a bit, and when it's a little bit lower, you sort of scratch your head and be like, am I being set up at this point right now? Why are the Dodgers only 136 or 150 at this point? A little bit higher today, and rightfully so. Varland's an average pitcher at best. Glass now by far is the better pitcher in this matchup. But if we're taking a look and say, you know what, there's different ways to bet the Dodgers and laying a -188, which includes taking some RBI props. Mookie Betts has been on fire. Shohei Ohtani coming into his own now. And Freddie Freeman has been absolutely electric yesterday. In the 2 props I took yesterday, one on Betts and one on Freeman, came away with plus money. You could probably do the same thing today. If you take a look at Varland last year, combined between lefty and righty batters, a 236 ISO and a 347 weighted on base percentage. Not very good. Also keep in mind, only 58-degree temperature today, but the wind is blowing out, Ben, about 10 miles an hour, so it might help a little bit. Look at the top of that lineup for the Dodgers, and if we're focusing on this year, left-handed batters is where I want to get after Varland. Again, only about 12 to 15 that he's faced, but a high ISO power number at 364. So if I'm looking for a focus right now and say, where can I make money? There's a lot of lefties in that lineup today that we're anticipating for the Dodgers, but pick me out Ohtani. Pick me out Freeman here. They've been devastatingly good against right-handed pitching. One of those guys will get you an RBI, and they're probably plus money right now as we sit.
4th start already for the newest Dodger in Tyler Glass now. He is 2-0 this year with a 3.18 ERA, but has given up a home run in both starts stateside. Of course, started the opener in Seoul, South Korea. Something to keep in mind with that wind blowing out today in the Twin Cities. We go from the Dodgers, who are in Minneapolis, to the Angels, who are in Anaheim. The Halos have not been as bad in the first 10 games as many expected. A 6-4 record, but a home underdog today against the Tampa Bay Rays.
Looking to take some unders here. Now, granted, you say, well, Don, you usually take unders when you're playing in the Trop. Well, this one's going to be in Los Angeles, but still pitcher's ballpark out there in Anaheim. If we're lining up these 2 pitchers, Patrick Sandoval's a name that doesn't get tossed around a lot. Why? Because he plays for the Angels, and there's no really high-leverage situations for him. But last year, 665 batters he's faced. Look at the ISO power number, Ben. A 188, and he is a lefty, which usually can trip up a lot of these lineups. If we flip it over to the other side, Savali will be on the mound, and you take a look at his numbers last year. Very good, 526 batters. You take a look at his ISO power number, 128. Give me the under in this game. So we'll back to 2 pitchers against 2 lineups that questionable at best, I would say, if you're going to be getting hits.
8.5 in Anaheim. DRS likes the under. Again, a full Major League Baseball slate on this Tuesday. 2 day games. It starts bright and early in just about 2.5 hours in Pittsburgh between the Pirates and the Tigers. We showed you the one in Fenway Park between the Red Sox and the Orioles. And then 13 games that start a little bit after 6 p.m. Eastern time through the rest of your Tuesday evening in MLB.